What's going on, my lovelies? It's Kyle here. So, I want to talk to the empaths today, once again. Could be very helpful for many other people as well. But, empaths, my message for you is beware of becoming codependent. Now, I want to break this down, or you might already be codependent as well, partially to some extent. Now, what do I mean by codependent? So there seems to be, in my mind, a couple different definitions and examples of codependency that come to mind. But I'll start first with one example, and it kind of paints a picture of a relationship dynamic between people, and this is from Psychology Today. So, codependency is a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person assumes the role of the giver, sacrificing their own needs and well-being for the sake of the other, the taker. The bond in question doesn't have to be romantic. It can occur just as easily between parent and child, friends and family members. Does that seem to ring true for you, empaths? The giver and the taker dynamic in a relationship. The empaths consistently being the giver, consistently being there, consistently putting their energy into the other person, and they pair up with an energy vampire. They pair up with somebody that might have narcissistic tendencies. They pair up with somebody who might be a manipulator, who might try to get things from them. And there isn't an equal balance between these two parties in this relationship. Guess what? The takers, from this definition, are going to seek you out. They seek out empaths. They seek out those who naturally like to give, who naturally like to caretake, who naturally have a lot of compassion and empathy. And they'll leverage that. They will leverage those tendencies and beautiful characteristics that you have when they aren't kept in check, when you are not healthily defending and guarding those tendencies, giving your time, giving your energy to those that have a healthy dynamic with you, to those who aren't trying to manipulate you or trying to take from you, where there is an equal give and take. So we need to be aware of ourselves falling into and allowing ourselves, because we're allowing ourselves, especially for new relationships. So becoming codependent, you need to see if this person, are they a taker? Is this relationship turned into a lopsided dynamic where I'm always giving and they're always taking and their needs always come first? As I've said many, many times on this channel, we need to be aware of this dynamic. We need to be aware of becoming codependent, or we need to also take a step back and see, are any of our relationships codependent? Because many empaths grow up with family members or parents that would be considered takers. And they in some way you might have had this natural disposition, but they programmed you in a way to make you much more codependent or the giver in this dynamic, so they can take what they want from you or get what they want from you, or control the relationship dynamics in whatever way they wish. We need to be aware of these tendencies. We need to be aware, and that's why we need to not give too much, not give too freely, to not enable these takers' unhealthy patterns. Okay, so that's the first example I want you all to be aware of, and to see if this rings true with your life in any way, shape, or form. And to try to troubleshoot that, try to change this dynamic, or back off from this relationship, or cut them out completely, or find a way to mitigate this so you're not always giving. Okay, that's number one. Number two, so this is a definition of codependent that's a little bit more straightforward, to me at least, in which empaths or people who are codependent have a tendency to feel empty or alone excessively alone and lonely, and this need that they need another person around them at all times. They need this bond, and they cling on to bonds that are likely unhealthy just because they don't want to feel that loneliness or that aloneness. Instead of cutting that tie, and I see this in a lot of romantic relationships, particularly. I see a lot of empaths being codependent, where they don't like to be alone. They don't like to be romantically alone. They love that closeness. They love to empathize and feed off another person's energy. A lot of empaths enjoy merging with another person. Energetically, emotionally, intellectually, in all these ways, they enjoy that closeness and that community. But we need to identify which relationships we have that are unhealthy, that are not beneficial for us, and perhaps we are enabling these patterns in this other person. If you find yourself in a very unhealthy relationship and you're aware of it, but you choose to stay in it because you feel empty if you're not in that romantic relationship, or if you're not in a romantic entanglement period, you need to work on that. You need to work on building a healthy independence, building yourself up, your self-worth up, learning to be okay, being alone at times. We need community, we need friendships. We're very social creatures. But this can be taken to the extreme, and this is what I mean by codependent, where you're in an unhealthy situation, you're in an unhealthy relationship with this person, but because you're afraid to be alone, you choose not to cut it off. You choose not to distance yourself from this person. It's an addiction in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so codependency is an addiction in many ways. And any addiction we have, we need to work on not being addicted to that. We need to find those pressure points within ourselves and those weaknesses within ourselves that are making us or keeping us in those unhealthy situations, and start focusing on that. Start focusing on those weak points, build them up, make them stronger and stronger. And we're like, yeah, actually, I will find another person that's better for me. And say I don't find it right away, I can work on those skills. So if I cut this relationship off, I know I can find another person that is nicer to me, that is healthier for me, where our relationship dynamic is much better and much more beneficial for both parties. And even if it doesn't happen right away, I can work on those weaknesses, and I will, and I'll build myself up. But the first step I have to do is to get out of this codependent relationship, is to get out of this unhealthy relationship. With the original definition that you're the giver and the other party's the taker, or that you need that closeness, but deep down you don't really want to be with that person. Deep down you don't really want that relationship. You're just doing it because it's comfortable on the surface. And as I say time and time again, we need to focus on what is deeper. What is more deeply healthy? What is more deeply better for us in the long run? Instead of going with these addictive tendencies of codependency. So it might be beneficial for you empaths out there. Take a second, reflect on your life. Maybe sift through what relationships are codependent, what aspects of yourself are codependent, when you know it's best for you to not be with that person in that relationship. And in the long run, building yourself up and finding a person or a friend, romantic partner that's much more healthy for you and doesn't enable their unhealthy tendencies. I'll leave it there. Hope y'all are having a lovely day wherever you're at in the world. And until next time.